School of our Divine Infinite Being, Central Doctrine.
The Egyptian Ba and Ka, the observables in the hat, the divine double, cultivating virtue and purity, the Personal Daemon and the Holy Guardian Angel.
On the day when you were one, you became two, but now that you are two, what will you do? Gospel of Thomas. The divine double, emanating from the higher realms, descends to the soul, facilitating its ascent towards unity with the divine, Iamblichus, de Mysteriis. The divine double, dwelling within the depths of the soul, guides the initiate on the mystical journey towards union with the divine. Chaldean Oracles. The Ka is a person's double, a guardian spirit and an individual's life force, in essence the sustaining power that accompanies a person through life and beyond. Henry Frankfurt. Ancient Egyptian Religion, an Interpretation.
Long before modern theory sought to explain the nature of consciousness and the fabric of the universe, the ancient Egyptians held a profound understanding of the self as both temporal and eternal, mortal and divine. Their vision of the soul, expressed in the concepts of the Ka and Ba, reveal an early awareness of a divine double, a timeless, infinite version of each person, coexisting with the ordinary self but residing in a realm beyond it. The concepts of the Ka and Ba are among the oldest elements in Egyptian spirituality, reflecting beliefs about the soul and afterlife. The earliest references to these concepts appear in the pyramid texts, a collection of funerary inscriptions found in the pyramids of the Old Kingdom, particularly in the Pyramid of King Unas, around 2400 BCE. The Egyptians perceived the Ka as an otherworldly counterpart, a double that came into being at the moment of birth. This Ka was not a mere shadow, but a second self, imbued with divine life force, an essence that remained eternally connected to its earthly counterpart. It was believed that, even after death, the Ka continued to live, thriving in a parallel existence just beyond the reach of the ordinary world. The Ka, being the vital force, was an intuitive inference to the body of light, of which we gave reference to in the previous chapter. Much like the objective field of light that is emanating from the DNA of our cells, the ancient Egyptians recognized, hidden within the material form, was a vitality that was experienceable. The Ba, on the other hand, for the Egyptians, represented a more mobile aspect of the soul, one capable of journeying freely between the material and the spiritual realms, linking the individual to both the divine and cosmic forces. It was this noetic traveler, most akin to the infinite self, that traversed the arche in Iamblichus Theurgy during acts of divination and prophecy. Iamblichus especially emphasized the concept of the Ba and Ka as the divine double and had a deep affinity with the Egyptian relationship to Neoplatonic Theurgy. Together, the Ka and Ba suggest a view of the self as vast and boundless, a dual nature that would later inspire seekers of hidden knowledge throughout history that is at least as old as 2400 BC and most probably older.
The traditional Egyptian paideia, education, consisted in energizing superior and integral wisdom for the good of the entire body, like, permeated and sustained by the royal Ka, the vital principle, and for the soul, Ba, both governed by the sacred principle of Math, truth, right measure, justice. This paideia had been under the rulership of the priests or philosophers, as Isocrates maintained, because the priests had a leisure, scholi, aimed at producing the scholi which allowed learning, scholi, aimed contemplative man, einer theoretikos. If we accept the fact that the ancient Hellenes, not only the Pythagoreans, revered the Egyptian form of government and imitated their teachings regarding the soul and their spiritual exercises, there is no reason to doubt that philosophia, at least in a certain special sense, is indeed a product of Egypt. The term itself, Isocrates is among the first of those who started to use it, may simply be a rendering of an analogous Egyptian term, now unknown, but probably related to some compound of Mary, love, and Rek, knowledge. In short, certain aspects of Hellenic, especially Neo-Pythagorean and Neoplatonic metaphysics, consist in designation and philosophical description of the same divine principles and cosmogonical manifestations, the same in a universal sense of philosophia perennis, not of exact coincidence in the realm of historical facts, which are already explicitly or implicitly presented in the hieroglyphic images and symbols employed by the Egyptian priests. Algus us Davinis, Philosophy as a Rite of Rebirth.
Algus's opinion about Egypt being the root of Greek philosophy is certainly true in part, but one must include those influences of Chaldea, Persia, Hellenistic roots, and especially those of the Indian philosophical system. Beginning with the Persian Empire and continuing through to the Greek Hellenistic and early Roman period, syncretism of diverse religious and philosophical systems was the norm across cultures and civilizations. You can see this in very distinct ways in Hermetic literature, where Egyptian, Platonic, and Christian themes were fused into the mystery traditions found in the temples of Egyptian priests during the early Roman period. We have video training on the roots of philosophy that you can find on our YouTube channel. This being true, the direct influence of authentic and ancient Egyptian metaphysics and transfiguration cannot be overlooked. These Egyptian ideas about the soul greatly affected all of the mystery traditions from early Platonism into the Middle Platonic, Christian, and later Neoplatonic systems of metaphysics. The sacred principles of Mat, truth, right measure, justice, bound the Ba and Ka together in the Akh, the luminous, transfigured spirit resulting from their union, comparable to Iamblichus' ultimate goal of Theurgy, the soul's ascent and its union with the divine, Henosis. This can be seen as the ultimate spiritual transformation in Egyptian belief, as the union of the Ka, life force, and the Ba, individual essence, to form the Akh, or luminous transfigured being. The term Akh itself is often translated as effective one or shining one, explicitly tied to radiance and light. The Ka's essence, when united with the Ba, participates in a process of becoming light. Iamblichus's emphasis on spiritual purification and the illumination of the soul and union with the divine double parallels the Egyptian notion of the Akh as a perfected being dwelling with the gods. This union, fused by Mat, aligned with the Greek nous, or divine intellect that, like Mat, is the binding logos of the cosmos. The Ba and Ka were not merely mythic imaginings, but early explorations into the mysteries of the cosmos and the human spirit, concepts that touch upon what came to be known in Theurgy as the infinite self, or as emphasized, divine double. The Egyptians deeply understood that each individual has a presence extending beyond temporal space, a second self rooted in the timeless, a self that endures beyond the boundaries of birth and death. Not only have these concepts survived through countless generations in one form or another, they have re-emerged with mathematical rigor in Leonard Susskind's multiverse interpretation of quantum mechanics here in our modern age.
Truth, certainty, that in which there is no doubt. That which is above is from that which is below, and that which is below is from that which is above, working the miracles of one, as all things were from one. The Emerald Tablet of Hermes. We propose a complementarity principle that relates the approximate observables associated with finite causal diamonds to exact observables in the hat. Leonard Susskind, Multiverse Interpretation of Quantum Mechanics. Discussion participant: are we the projection, or is the outer surface the projection? Which one is reality? Susskind replied, that's your choice. You decide what you are, but the mathematics says they're equivalent. In response, another interviewer told Susskind that, I feel like I'm here. Susskind countered, yeah, but so does your image on the boundary. It's also saying, I feel like I'm here. But the mathematics doesn't care which way you think about it. It says there's an equivalence. That's about all we can say. Leonard Susskind, in Is the Universe a Hologram? The Good Stuff, PBS Digital Studios, August 4, 2015.
There is a version of you that is infinite and objectively more real than the you of everyday conscious awareness existing at the cosmic horizon. And according to string theory, here it remains infinitely, outside of time, eternal and immortal. These observables in the hat, related to you, project back through the vacuum of space on vibrating strings of energy, and you are their holographic projection, a co-equal manifestation in temporal space of the infinite self at the boundary. As Susskind states, we propose a complementarity principle that relates the approximate observables associated with finite causal diamonds to exact observables in the hat. As we have taught through our explanation of the multiverse interpretation, you and the rest of matter in the universe are finite causal diamonds and are holographically projected from every point of this perimeter, the hat, our cosmic horizon. When Susskind says approximate observables, that is all the matter in the universe, including you. And when he says exact observables in the hat, that is also you. But as we will show, according to string theory, it is an infinite you, existing outside of space-time. Susskind states that both versions exist simultaneously, but as approximate observables, we remain unaware of the exact observables in the hat region of the cosmic horizon. As spiritual seekers and theurgists, we argue that yes, it remains cut off from those that do not purposely engage a direct relationship with the eternal nature, but knowledge of this infinite self is absolutely possible.
The self, however, is a far bigger being than just the ego, and in principle at least, it embraces both the conscious and the unconscious psyche. The self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference, which embraces both conscious and unconscious. It is the center of this totality, just as the ego is the center of consciousness. Carl Jung, Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. Theurgy allowed the embodied soul to tap the divine power, hidden in its mortality, and to realize that its paradoxical nature, being both mortal and immortal, allowed it to participate directly in the creation and salvation of the cosmos. Iamblichus was employed to coordinate the mortal activities of the soul with their immortal archetypes. For Iamblichus, the cosmos itself was the paradigmatic Theurgy, the act of the gods continually extending themselves into mortal expression. Gregory Shaw, Theurgy and the Soul, the Neoplatonism of Iamblichus.
All of our experiences and every possible outcome exists on an infinite landscape of possibility, where we are more real, smeared out across the entire infinitely hot, two-dimensional spherical surface of the cosmic horizon. At this two-dimensional, infinitely hot spherical boundary, time stands still. This is the light limit, and light does not experience time. Just as the theurgist identifies with the timeless body of light, here at the boundary, where space is pushing faster than light, time ceases to exist. The theurgist identified with their light body in the timeless spherical cosmic horizon, which as we have taught is mirrored onto the spherical boundary of the self, together creates the star vehicle of the theurgist, the Okima. Here the theurgist enters into relationship with the spherical mandala of wholeness, as Jung states, a sphere with a dot in the center. The center being the fully awake, aware, conscious ego, the point of the singularity, the spherical boundary being the unconscious and thereby collective unconscious of the total self. Our divine double, our infinite eternal nature at the cosmic horizon, is both the infinite source of our physical being and the objective Jungian psyche, the collective unconscious that also projects in from the same boundary as the eternal archetypes and forms, in other words, the gods. As said by Shaw, for Iamblichus, the cosmos itself was the paradigmatic Theurgy, the act of the gods continually extending themselves into mortal expression.
We conjecture an analogous hat complementarity for the multiverse. It ensures that the approximate observables and approximate decoherence of causal diamonds with finite area have precise counterparts in the hat. Because the hat is a spatially open, statistically homogeneous universe, anything that happens in the hat will happen infinitely many times. Leonard Susskind, Multiverse Interpretation of Quantum Mechanics.
According to Susskind, due to the application of complementarity, although there is an infinite self at the cosmic horizon, we remain unaware of this fact in our everyday waking life. Just like you can know the absolute position of a particle, but not its momentum, and that you can know the absolute momentum of a wave, but not its position, Because we are experiencing this third-dimensional world and conscious of our immediate existence, we remain cut off from the part of ourselves that is rooted in the cosmic horizon. In this way, you can say that we are the particle in the particle-wave duality of complementarity, and our infinite self is the wave. We are fully aware of our third-dimensional experience, but not familiar with the momentum of our divine double at the perimeter, as Susskind explains, where anything that happens in the hat will happen infinitely many times. Every occurrence from one moment to the next inside our third-dimensional space-time temporal experience is happening along with all other possible outcomes an infinite number of times at the cosmic horizon, the hat region of our universe.
Iamblichus holds that, according to the Hermetic writings, the human being has two souls, one deriving from the primary intelligence, partaking also of the power of the demiurge, the other being contributed to humans from the circuit of the heavenly bodies. This being the case, the soul which descends to us from the celestial realms accommodates itself to the circuits of those realms, but that which is present to us in an intelligible mode from the intelligible transcends the cycle of generation, and it is in virtue of it that we may attain to emancipation from fate and ascent to the intelligible gods. The Personal Daemon in Iamblichus Akindinos Kaniamos. For man, as these writings, those of the Egyptians, affirm, has two souls. One is from the first intelligible and is a participant of the power of demiurge, while the other is given from the revolutions of the heavenly worlds, to which the God-beholding soul returns. Given these conditions, the soul that comes into us from the worlds follows the periodic circuits of those worlds, but the soul that stems from the intelligible and is present intelligibly is superior to the cycle of generation, and through this occurs both the unbinding of fate and the upward progress to the intelligible gods. Theurgy, insofar as it conducts upward to the unbegotten, is made complete by a life of this kind. Daniela P. Taormina, Iamblichus, and the Foundations of Late Platonism.
The Egyptians were quite aware of the dual nature of the soul. As stated, one is from the first intelligible and is a participant of the power of the demiurge, while the other is given from the revolutions of the heavenly worlds, to which the God-beholding soul returns. The intelligible that participates in the power of the demiurge is the microcosm of the human being that is alive and aware of the world of form here within the generative material existence. Here we live in the world, and revolving around our center of consciousness are the things of this world that make us who we are. Our vocation, relationships, possessions, and life purpose as a contributing member of society surrounds us. Here we are the center of our personal cosmos, a microcosm of experience. In this world of duality, we are always faced moment by moment with a decision, one that either opens us to the living waters of the eternal or leaves it closed off to our knowledge and understanding. This decision is, are we lumbering sacks of meat in a purposeless world, or are we eternal souls having a temporal experience on an infinite path of progression? As Carl Jung stated as the biggest question of life in Memories, Dreams, Reflections, are we related to something infinite or not? That is the telling question of life that one must answer, and it most certainly is a decision that must be made. But those that choose to remain ignorant of the eternal and infinite self, as Susskind would say, due to complementarity, the immortal realms remain invisible, occult, closed off. Every moment we live is either an opportunity for remembering our eternal nature or a forgetting like a dream that fades in the early morning. Will I align with the demiurgic creator of the universe today? Will I act from the divine will, aligned with the singularity, our divine infinite being, and draw the immortal nature of the eternal archetypes and forms into the world today? Will I act as a servant of the highest God, drawing Aphrodite's beauty from every interaction, Hermes' logo to guide my every thought, Apollo's divinatory instruction from every experience, Krishna's childlike expressiveness from one moment to the next? Will I align my will with that of the Demiurgos, the Creator, and draw the nature of the totality state, the One Self, our divine infinite being, into the world through my every action? Will I enter into a relationship with the Eternal through a purposeful personal discipline? Will I openly pray with the Christian, meditate with the Buddhist, dance with the Hare Krishna, and enter into sacred space as often as possible? will I participate? As Shaw stated, in the paradigmatic theurgy, the act of the gods continually extend themselves into mortal expression.
It is necessary, in this world, to regard every act as a sacrament, and every function as a sacramental function, for so it is. Aleister Crowley, Magic Without Tears. I will interpret every phenomenon as a particular dealing of God with my soul. Aleister Crowley, Little Essays Towards Truth.
Living virtuously, with a sense of moral responsibility, and participating in the demiurgic process in our individual lives, aware that the Creator has given us this as a responsibility, aligns us with the nature of our divine infinite being. This condition of insight requires a deep relationship with the continuous cultivation of virtue. How can we understand the ultimate truth if we are not honest? How can we understand grace if we are not compassionate? How can we understand courage if we are not valorous? How can we understand justice without being of good judgment? The Neoplatonist integrated deeply with the Stoic philosophy of cultivating virtue, as did the early Christians, as do we. Platonic axiom of bringing the higher forms of beauty, justice, and truth into the world, underpinned by a drive to excellence in all aspects of life as the central philosophy in returning to the One, is alignment with the demiurgic creator of the universe. As theurgists, we move even further beyond this original philosophical perspective into the realm of the incarnating nature of the gods. It is the nature of the gods acting through us that aligns one as a microcosm to the virtues found naturally in the macrocosmic order of expression. These expressions, rooted in the gods and goddesses as eternal archetypes, being wholes beyond comprehension, act upon the human form through their perfecting natures. The gods also purify the theurgist through the embodiment of their very presence. Equal to and aligned with virtue is the necessity of purity and the preparation for the purity provided by the presence of the gods. Not the politicized purity of mainstream religious thinking, but purity through proper eating, fasting periods, concentrated daily meditation practices to clear the mind, and the practice of ritual renewal following natural cycles such as the new and full moons, equinoxes and solstices, and the movement between astrological signs throughout the year. Through cultivating virtue and purposeful alignment with the vast expression of truth underpinning every interaction, we foster an identity as a reflected image of God, the One, the Good. Most religions have a structure that is more or less salient towards these ideals, although this is also where they find reason for disagreement, hate, argument, and discord. As explained previously, the political separation and judgment holding religious ideals apart, we simply dissolve into the ignorance that fostered them. As perennial Mandalans and Theurgists, we are on a hero's journey through this life, following a teleology that drives us towards the deepest possible meaning of our existence, as everyone is destined to do, whatever framework of understanding they may foster. The continual cultivation of virtue and purity and a consistent alignment and realignment with the will of the demiurgic creator of the universe, the singularity, the divine will, gives the theurgist their horizontal alignment of movement in the world. This sets the course for the vertical alignment accomplished only in direct acts of ritual theurgy and mystical union.
For it is not possible to obtain the form of the gods by philosophy alone, but theurgic rite is also needed. Iamblichus. D. Mysterious.
Aligned with the demiurgic creator, we become a personal creator, a cosmos, a microcosm in the macrocosmic order. We perform our work and perfect our lives, unified with and beheld by the omnipresent witness, the all-knowing, all-seeing God, our divine infinite being. This alignment we can easily call the first alignment, as it is necessary in every possible capacity to maintain this link in a consistent way, daily, as the microcosm in activity of personal demiurgy. This link, our first alignment, associated with our generative third-dimensional temporal selves, allows one to foster the proper environment for developing the second alignment, the recognition, integration, and unification of our infinite eternal natures, our divine double, through acts of ritual theurgy and divinatory rites. It is just a mechanism to call these the first and second, as the beginning of ritual itself informs the consciousness of the practitioner to the presence of the divine. Therefore, starting a ritual theurgy practice informs and demonstrates the true living capacity of the self-God archetype, and the various manifestations of the divine, which the first alignment requires. This paradox is a necessary one. Let me further explain. Although there is ecstasy, divinatory revelation, and deep spiritual experience gained through these acts of ritual theurgy, this second vertical alignment, it is the application of these results to the first horizontal alignment that completes the true and fullest experience of a theurgic seer or diviner. The first and the second work in cycle, like the yin-yang, where daily theurgic ritual, this vertical alignment, transforms the nature of the practitioner dynamically, directly, ecstatically. Our demiurgic activity in the world, the horizontal, informs our understanding as we concretize the newly transformed nature of the self into expressions of unity, drawing the gods into the world, in a continuum of transcended experience. Vertical theurgic ritual alignment through successive performance, although necessary, is not enough. The cycles of practice must inform the theurgist holistically through both the first and second alignment, working together in a balanced continuum. This flow between the first and the second, once maintained for a continuous period of time, naturally gestates and transforms the world of the theurgist into a more permanent state of transcendent experience and spiritual liberation. Where Daniela above states, the other is given from the revolutions of the heavenly worlds, to which the God-beholding soul returns. She speaks of the divine double, this second alignment, our vertical theurgic work, our infinite nature that is more real at the cosmic horizon. Again quoting, she calls the infinite self, superior to the cycles of generation, and through this occurs both the unbinding of fate and the upward progress to the intelligible gods. Theurgy, insofar as it conducts upward to the unbegotten, is made complete by a life of this kind. The unbinding of fate has a very specific direct correlation found within quantum mechanics and string theory, which we will get more into below. The point here is this recognition of the infinite, immortal soul, the unbegotten that surrounds us and fills us at every point, as the beginning of freedom from the bonds of our material obsessions, not as an escape from the material, but as a holistic bonding of the mortal and the immortal. As stated by Shaw above, Iamblichus was employed to coordinate the mortal activities of the soul with their immortal archetypes. It is the recognition of this immortal archetype, our infinite selves, expressed as the mortal condition, that begins the journey towards the unbinding of fate and the state of spiritual liberation. Our expressions in the world become the expressions of the divine, and our bounded natures in the animal appetites of the body reverse and come into alignment with the expressive will of the infinite nature. Our passions become purified and representative perfections of the One. Although Susskind, a modern materialist, would claim, due to complementarity, that we are cut off from the infinite nature of our divine double, this is not a religious or philosophical statement that would be agreed to by Iamblichus, nor would it be agreed to by any experienced yoga practitioner within the Hindu systems of attainment. In fact, you could say that our entire spiritual enterprise, globally, throughout known history, has as its most common ground an acceptance of the eternal nature of the self. Awareness of the divine double, the infinite immortal self, in a real encounter with its nature is the process that Theurgy, over successive ritual acts, brings to consciousness in the practitioner.
When you make the two into one, you will become the sons of man. And when you say, "Mountain, move away," it will move away. Gospel of Thomas. For we are not separated from the gods, but we are united to them by a communion more powerful than any other, and by a power of unspeakable efficacy. They are not outside of us, but are present with us, and we are full of gods. Iamblichus de Mysteriis.
The divine double, our infinite nature, smeared out on every point of the spherical cosmic horizon, holographically projects the immortal self, the unbegotten, the observables in the hat, that are us in the world of generation, creating our temporal, physical, psychic being. Yet it remains unknown to our waking conscious ego. Although we have explained this several times in the central doctrine, it is important at this point to gain a point of clear thinking about this concept. Our divine double, the observables in the hat that are us, is found at every point of the cosmic horizon. Not only is it found at every point of the cosmic horizon, so is the entire cosmos. Our divine double and the entire cosmos are a complete and total unity, found at every point of the cosmic horizon altogether. And as written by Shaw, for Iamblichus, the cosmos itself was the paradigmatic theurgy, the act of the gods continually extending themselves into mortal expression. The eternal archetypes and forms, the gods, projecting in from the cosmic horizon into the self-expression of the theurgist, do so through the eternal, immortal, infinite divine double itself.
For the theurgical art is employed not for the purpose of obtaining something pertaining to human life, but for the purpose of being joined to the whole divine choir through the power of ineffable symbols, and for the sake of participating in divine things, and ruling over the entire series of the divine orders. It is through this that we enjoy the presence of the gods, and not through any other virtue. For of all the virtues, the theurgical exercise is the only one which joins us to the gods, and confers on us a union with the entire divine essence. Iamblichus de Mysteriis.
Ritual theurgy can be identified as specific rites and activities, many of which you will find formulas for here at our school. The exact rites of Iamblichus are unknown, but the Western mystery tradition has much to assist the modern theurgist. The symbolic use of tarot and astrology being two very central to our practice. We, as you will see through the examination of our work, have also deeply integrated with many Eastern themes into our symbolic framework. To help bring this to a level of simplicity, all direct acts of union with the divine can be seen as more or less theurgical acts. Prayer being one of the more common ones that we use and are used by most every religion. Most, if not all, forms of Hindu meditation where there is a union with deities and the divine nature of the totality state are theurgic. The ceremonial practices of most early Roman Christian and Eastern Orthodox canons could be considered theurgic rites in Mass. Specific to divine theurgy, as practiced by Iamblichus, in the Platonist school he was the headmaster of, theurgy was a directed ritual activity that unveiled the esoteric nature of the immortal self into conscious awareness and its connection to the infinite realm of the gods, the eternal archetypes and forms. Those willing to make this effort are as stated in the Devi Bhagavatam, the knowers of Atman. They are the initiates of the mysteries, those willing to embark the hero's journey of knowing one's total nature completely. This divine double, that which opens us to the realm of the gods, the total objective infinite self projecting in from every point of the spherical cosmic horizon, is what Iamblichus referred to as our personal daemon.
If I am to reveal to you the truth about the personal daemon, it is not from one part only of the heavenly regions, nor from any one element of the visible realm that this entity is imparted to us, but from the whole cosmos and the whole variety of life within it, and from every sort of body, through all of which the soul descends into generation, there is apportioned to us an individual lot, assigned to each of the parts within us according to an individual authorizing principle. The personal daemon who is allotted to every individual, being the first and most ancient of gods, is the leader of the soul and directs it. This daemon is a witness to the life of the soul and is the first vehicle of the soul. Iamblichus de Mysteriis. There is a single main definition of the object of all magical rituals. It is the uniting of the microcosm with the macrocosm. The supreme and complete ritual is therefore the invocation of the holy guardian angel, or, in the language of mysticism, union with God. Aleister Crowley. Magic in Theory and Practice.
In ritual theurgy, we connect with this eternal nature of what we actually are in the hat regions of the cosmic horizon. It is what we are in our infinite nature, and more real, as we are its holographic projection in the world of generative existence. It is through this eternal and immortal self, our personal daemon, that we first incarnated into the world of generation. Our divine double, personal daemon, is, as Iamblichus puts it, our soul's first vehicle, and knowledge of it is accessed directly through the luminous imaginal body. In ritual, through what the ceremonial magicians of Thelema would call astral flight, our eternal selves descend from the cosmic horizon, which is reflected in its totality upon the spherical self-horizon, and we experience our personal daemon objectively. We see through the eyes of our eternal selves, becoming the personal daemon itself, as it is one's true infinite nature. When we are identified as the body of light, entering the timeless, spaceless, massless state, and fully aware of the spherical self-boundary that is a perfect reflection of the observables in the hat that exists at the cosmic horizon, where time stops and the past, present, and future are smeared out across the entirety of its spherical two-dimensional boundary, we enter the Okima, the spherical star vehicle, whereby manifests the divine presence of our personal daemon, and thereby the eternal archetypes and forms, the gods. The Thelemic magician call this the supreme and complete ritual, or the invocation of the holy guardian angel, who is the same as the personal daemon, the infinite observables in the hat, that are our true eternal nature. And by gaining knowledge and conversation, as Thelemites would say, of this divine self, we by definition are unified with God. The singularity, as we have taught before, is the apex of our awareness at the point of the ego, and exists at every point of the spherical cosmic horizon, and underlies every point in space-time in its unified infinite nature. When we are united with the personal daemon, which is also smeared out across every point of the cosmic horizon's spherical boundary, we are in complete union with God, our divine infinite being.
Iamblichus's mystagogy was radically non-dual. The material world is transparent to the immaterial, nature is the manifestation of the supernatural, and the human being is the vehicle of an immortal God. Theurgical Platonists did not escape from the world. To borrow an Emersonian image, they were enthroned as lords of the world. Gregory Shaw, Hellenic Tantra.
As stated from Leonard Susskind's discussion above, discussion participant, are we the projection or is the outer surface the projection? Which one is reality? Susskind replied, that's your choice. You decide what you are, but the mathematics says they are equivalent. The theurgic Platonic practices of Iamblichus are non-dual, as we have explained in previous chapters. This is well explained in Gregory Shaw's seminal work, Hellenistic Tantra, where he places theurgic Platonism under the category of henological metaphysics. A significant aspect of henological metaphysics is the relationship between unity, the one, and multiplicity, the many. While the one is singular and indivisible, the material world and all its diversity are seen as multiple and manifold. The task of henological metaphysics is to understand how multiplicity emerges from unity, and how unity can be realized within multiplicity. Henological metaphysics underlies the theories of polytheistic monism, as taught here at our school. Quoting from Shaw,
As Iamblichus put it, the will of the gods is to reveal themselves through human beings. That gods come into bodily appearance and reveal themselves in the pure and faultless lives of human souls. Although the metaphysics of Platonic theurgists recognized the spiritual and the material aspects of existence, it did not disparage the latter in favor of the former. Blondel's theurgy is the root of human existence. As he put it, we must all give birth to ourselves by giving birth to God in us, Theotokos, as if it were necessary to be God in order to be fully human. Perhaps the most significant consequence of adopting henological metaphysics is that the one is no longer conceived as the highest entity in a hierarchy of beings. Rather than the highest entity, the one is revealed as the activity that gives rise to all beings, and is therefore as much present in the lowest as in the highest orders of reality. This means that contrary to traditional dualist metaphysics, where spirit is preferable to matter because it is closer to God, in henological metaphysics the one is as present to matter as to spirit. The natural world, the human body, and all physical existence are manifestations of the one. For Triar, this is what allows human life to be sacramental, or as Blondel put it, a synthesis of God with man. Iamblichus says that because the soul is a mean, it exists not only between the undivided and divided, the remaining and the proceeding, the noetic and the irrational, but also between the ungenerated and the generated. Thus, that which is immortal in the soul is filled completely with mortality, and no longer remains only immortal. Gregory Shaw, Hellenic Tantra.
again, as Susskind explained, the mathematics say they are equivalent. Our divine double, projecting in from every point of the cosmic horizon, and the waking experience self are in equally participating unity. This personal daemon, this God that directs us towards the revolutions of the higher orders, and the metabolizing waking world self are one equivalent non-dual whole. Maurice Blondel, alive between 1861 and 1949, was a French philosopher and Christian thinker known for his work in philosophy of action and his efforts to reconcile Catholicism with modern philosophical thought. He used the Greek term theotokai, singular theotokos, the God-bearer, or one who gives birth to God. That is, the one who binds together the inseparable dual aspects of the infinite and finite self into one total nature, a powerful description of the process involved in Theurgy. Through uniting the divine double, the personal daemon, whom Iamblichus says is allotted to every individual, being the first and most ancient of gods, with the experiencing living soul of generative existence, one is united with, by default, the macrocosmic totality state. Just like our divine double is smeared out on every point of the two-dimensional spherical plane of the cosmic horizon, so is the entire cosmos. Here the past, present, and future of the entire universe is found smeared out across the spherical cosmic horizon, united with our divine double at every point. Thereby, union with the personal daemon, our holy guardian angel, is also the theosis of the Eastern Orthodox, the union of Atman and Purusha Atman, the personal self with the one self of Platonism. Union with our divine double is thereby union with God, our divine infinite being. This personal daemon is our guide, the whispering of the Holy Spirit, the Holy Ghost, and our holy guardian angel. It is indistinguishable from God as it shares in the exact same infinite and eternal nature at the cosmic horizon at every point. The canon of Catholic and Orthodox Christianity ingress this living symbolism in their reference to Jesus Christ as God incarnate on earth. Across the entire Christian world, Jesus has become the holy guardian, the very Holy Spirit that walks with his disciples, giving them guidance wherever and whenever needed. Through prayer and the use of this powerful symbolic vast agency of God incarnate in the Son, Christianity has given their followers a filter to this personal relationship. Perennial Mandalans follow Christ, but the Christ of the Gospel of Thomas. This separation was most certainly not in agreement with the followers of Thomas, who in their Christianity mirrored the henological metaphysics of their theurgic Platonic brothers. Although the standard Christian Jesus offers the 1.3 billion Catholics, 900 million Protestants, 220 million Eastern Orthodox, and 90 million other Christian denominations, this arm's-length vision of a personal daemon in the form of Christ, as theurgists, this relationship is something that we take much more direct. As Christ says in the Gospel of Thomas, "Whoever drinks from my mouth will become like me. I myself shall become that person, and the hidden things will be revealed to him." We are to become like him, connected to our divine infinite being personally. Further in Thomas, when you make the two one, you will become the sons of man, and when you say mountain move away, it will move away. It is the merging of the divine double and coming to awareness of our infinite nature that Jesus taught in his secret teachings through the Thomasian Christian sect. We certainly follow Jesus and celebrate those that see him as the guardian and God incarnate in the world as brothers and sisters in Christ. Drawing a relationship to Jesus opens the divine to embody the believer and has given the Western world a link to the infinite nature of the living Father he represents. For many this is enough. For the theurgist, the Thomasian Christian, following Jesus' secret teachings, he is a doorway to the self. Most of the Christian world would see our perspective as against Christ, but really it is more against John and Paul. We talk a lot more about that below, and also offer an entire video training on the Gospel of Thomas and Christian doctrine on our website and YouTube channel. In Kabbalistic teachings, when considering the diagram of the Tree of Life, the relationship between Kether, the one on the tree, and Malkuth, the final and 10th on the tree, is often described as having an inseparable deep interconnectedness. Kether, the highest Sephira, and Malkuth, the lowest, are seen as reflections of each other, where Kether is said to be found in Malkuth, but in a different form. This idea is encapsulated in the phrase, "The end is in the beginning, and the beginning is in the end."
The 10th and final Sephira is called Malkut. In the explanation of the Sephira of Kether, we noted that Kether, the beginning, is wedged in Malkut, the end. The reverse is also true, that Malkut is wedged in Kether. We explained that this means that the final product, Malkut, is the original intention of the entire process of emanation. When Malkut is still contained in the original intention, that is, in Kether, it is in a state of exaltedness. And when it descends to its place as the last of the Sephirot, it is in a state of humility. Rabbi Moshe Miller, Chabad.org.
Kether, the realm of pure potential and divine will, which is most certainly seen as equal to the One in Platonism, contains within it the seed of Malkuth, the realm of manifestation in physical reality. Conversely, Malkuth, although in its final Sephira as the physical world, holds within it the essence of Kether, thus completing the cycle of emanation from the divine to the material and back again. This is why Malkuth is called the kingdom, for it is the enthroned of the one in the many. Kether, the total unity, and Malkuth, the final emanation, the material world, are all at once equal and the same. It is this secret knowledge found within Kabbalah that found its way into the body-positive perspective of the Thelemic magicians following this formula decades later. By allowing our eternal self, our divine double, our personal daemon, our holy guardian angel, to become our eyes, our mind, and our heart, we gain an immeasurable inner strength. Our limited nature, as Shah says, our mortality in its transitory, temporary nature, is one with the expression of our immortal self-identity. We must destroy the ignorance bound up in the passions of the body, our false ego, caused by the generative metabolizing experience of this limited space-time view of existence, and see the infinite nature in our finite creative expressions as one. As stated by Israel Regardie in the middle pillar, it is therefore with the abdication of the false ego that we may attain spiritual conversation with the knowledge of our holy guardian angel. Only through the abdication of the mind and the utter destruction of its illusory nature, the rooting out of that element which gives egoism to a mere combination of perceptions, tendencies, and memories, can the inner God manifest and confer the superb benediction of the mystical ecstasy upon the human soul. We must become the disciple to the very nature of this first and most ancient of gods, this self-unity that is co-equal and identified with the totality state itself, the self-God archetype, through accepting our personal daemon as our master and guide, as stated by Iamblichus in De Mysteriis. For it is requisite to know that the personal daemon is not only our guide and the first leader of the soul, but he is also to be revered by us with all our might. It is necessary that we should follow him wherever he leads, and should commit ourselves wholly to his care, as he is a God who governs all our actions. By doing so, we will be led back to the divine order from which we have descended. This is an echo from the acceptance that Christians give to Jesus across all the religious systems of practice in our modern world. We must trust that our divine double, our higher selves, this personal daemon, which is our infinite nature, can and will guide us on our journey through the adventures, trials, and challenges of our life. Be it Jesus if he gives you comfort and stability in his beginnings, but as Jesus teaches in the Gospel of Thomas, you will become him and he you, and you will achieve your own personal salvation through your own personal transcendent nature. The divine double has a much more perennial and universal existence than one may expect in both Western and Eastern thought. Here is a short and not at all exhaustive list of a few ways in which religious thought from an Eastern position points towards the same conclusion as us.
Atman and Brahman, Hinduism. In Hindu philosophy, particularly in the Advaita Vedanta tradition, the concept of Atman, the individual self, and Brahman, the universal self, is prominent. Atman is considered the true self or soul of an individual, which is ultimately identical to Brahman, the ultimate reality or world soul. This relationship can be seen as a kind of divine double, where the true essence of an individual is a reflection or manifestation of the divine. If you have read through our full doctrine up to this point, you have seen much of our integration with these ideas. Bodhisattvas, Buddhism. In Mahayana Buddhism, Bodhisattvas are enlightened beings who have postponed their own final enlightenment in order to help all sentient beings achieve enlightenment. The concept of a bodhisattva's enlightened nature can be seen as a divine double to their human existence, representing the potential for all beings to realize their own Buddha nature. Shen and Hun, Tao and Te, Taoism. In Taoist thought, particularly in Chinese medicine and spirituality, there are concepts of Shen, spirit, and Hun, ethereal soul. Shen represents the divine, spiritual aspect of a person, while Hun is more closely related to the soul's connection with the heavens and the cosmos. These can be viewed as dual aspects of a person's existence, bridging the human and the divine. In Taoism, Tao, the way, is the ultimate principle that underlies and unites all existence. Te, virtue, is the manifestation of Tao in the individual. The realization of Te within oneself can be seen as aligning one's life with the divine principle of Tao, embodying a divine double through one's actions and being. Jiva and Paramatman, Jainism. In Jain philosophy, the jiva is the individual soul that is bound by karma, while the Paramatman is the liberated soul that has attained perfection and divinity. The journey from jiva to Paramatman can be seen as the realization of one's divine double, achieving a state of pure divine consciousness. Although a very different framework of practice, there are similarities to our use of these metaphysics of liberation through recognition of this eternal self. Nafs and Ruh, Sufism. In Islamic mysticism, Sufism, Nafs refers to the ego or lower self, while Ruh is the divine spirit or soul. The transformation of Nafs into a state that is more aligned with Ruh is seen as a spiritual journey towards realizing one's divine nature, akin to the concept of the divine double. Purusha and Prakriti, Samkhya philosophy. In the Sankhya school of Hindu philosophy, Purusha is the pure consciousness or the true self, and Prakriti is the material world and its manifestations. The relationship between Purusha and Prakriti reflects a dual aspect of existence, where the true self, Purusha, remains unchanging and divine, while engaging with the material world, Prakriti. Kundalini and Shakti, Tantric traditions. In various tantric traditions, particularly within Hinduism and Buddhism, Kundalini is described as a dormant spiritual energy located at the base of the spine. When awakened, Kundalini rises through the chakras, leading to a union with Shakti, the divine feminine energy. This awakening can be seen as realizing one's divine double, where the human self unites with a higher spiritual energy. Within our school, we offer training in Raja Kundalini following this concept. You can find articles for this on our website. Shinjin, Japanese Buddhism. In the Shin Buddhist tradition, Shinjin is often translated as true entrusting or faith. It refers to a state of awakening or realization that one's true nature is aligned with Amida Buddha's vow of universal salvation. This realization reflects a transformation of the individual self into a state that resonates with the divine. Jivatman and Paramatman, Yoga philosophy. In the context of yoga philosophy, Jivatman refers to the individual soul, while Paramatman is the supreme soul or God. The practice of yoga aims to unite Jivatman with Paramatman, thus realizing one's true divine nature. This is a concept that you are already familiar with, as we have incorporated these ideas into much of our writing. Buddha nature, Mahayana Buddhism. The concept of Buddha nature in Mahayana Buddhism holds that all sentient beings possess an intrinsic potential for enlightenment. This Buddha nature is the true, divine essence within each being, waiting to be realized and manifested. Spirit and ancestors, African traditional religions. In many African traditional religions, there is a belief in a close relationship between the living and their ancestors. The ancestors are considered divine intermediaries who guide and protect their descendants. This relationship can be seen as a form of divine double, where the living are connected to a higher, ancestral realm.